quite a few things that we would have liked to include on the show, including some of the portions of the interviews that we're actually playing. We had to edit them down, for which we want to thank our fine engineer, Jack Chapman. But another thing, we're not going to get a chance to play all the music that we've helped introduce over the years. Like I've Got a Rose Between My Toes and West of the Wall and Home in Pasadena and Pakalafaka and all those wonderful old songs. Mainly because we've got such beautiful people with us, like Jane Mansfield, who is accident-prone, for those of you who may not know it. She's forever having straps break, or heels break, or losing things when she's walking. You know.
I know what you're referring to. Someone stole a diamond garter from me over in Milano in '57. Mickey had given to me. And some fans had stolen it. I was at a premiere of one of my pictures with Success Boy Rock Hunter, and the fans were so excited that they just kept tearing things off of me, like my shoes. And
But how did they get the garter?
Well, that's what I was wondering, too. They got it, though, because I didn't have it when I went in the theater, and I had it when I got out of the car.
Were your stockings sagging?
I don't wear stockings.
Oh, really? Then what was the garter for?
It was just a memento from Mickey. It's sort of funny. I never have worn stockings.
But how could they get a garter off without you knowing it?
Well, they're pretty wild, those Italians, you know.
Wasn't that the same place that your dress strap broke?
Yes. It didn't break. I had a dress on, and it was very pretty. It was white lace with little pink rosebuds all over it. We went to this ball, and I believe it was a ball that night. And the fans, they're warm. You know, the Latin men are very warm. And
No, I don't.
Well, I know, and they are. And they started picking off the rosebuds off my dress and anything they could grab a hold, like a souvenir. They'll do that. Hair.
Yes.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything. I thought someone had grabbed my diamond necklace last week for a souvenir. That's why I was so worried.
Yes, yes. Well, one thing I must say, with all of the grabbing that goes on, Jane, and you're not scarred at all, and I definitely know that you have a lot of animals around your house. You've got the dogs and the cats. You even have an ocelot, which is a little animal with very sharp claws. And I must say that you're untouched. Your body is your crowning glory, as they say.
Well, thank you. Saturday night we went to a party, and right before we went, I was playing with my ocelot, and I got, like, you know how your eyes water and all, and you feel like sneeze. In fact, you sneeze all over. And my eyes got so swollen I had to wear sunglasses to the party, and I did. And then we came home afterwards and played with him some more.
What are your dementias, Jane?
They're 41, 18, 35 and a half.
Have they always been that way? No, not when I was 10 years old.
You're naughty.
I wonder where she got that idea. I'm naughty. Oh, boy. We're going to be talking to Arthur O'Connell in just a moment. On our show, in asking very simple questions, we sometimes get the strangest answers back. We were discussing Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield and Elizabeth Taylor with Arthur O'Connell, who was known as a fine character actor. And I asked him about sex pots, and most of them, from time to time, almost you forget that they're married. And I was wondering whether motherhood, having a child, takes away the sexiness of some of these girls.
I don't know. I understand that some doctors say that Bridget Bardot won't be as appealing now that she's a mother.
A mother. I read that, too, and it said that her main appeal before was this savage drive that she had.
Well, she'll be a savage driving mother now.
Yes. Isn't this a lovely day to go walking in the rain? And actually, it's a beautiful day outside. High temperature up around 79 degrees and a high to you. This is Bob Crane with the records. We've been here since 10 minutes after 8, and we'll be here till 5 of 12. This is the beginning of our 9th year here on KNX Radio. It's also the final Saturday portion of our show. From now on, we'll be on just Monday through Friday, which is just grand. Finally got to get 2 days off a week. Isn't that good news, Ted? We're reliving some of the moments of the past 8 years with some of the guests that we've had. So far this morning, we've had such people as the late Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield and Georgie Jessel and Gypsy Rose Lee. In this portion of the show, we're going to be talking to the gentleman who's playing piano in the background, Andre Previn and Phyllis Diller, and Gig Young and Barbara Streisand, and Stephanie Powers and Gene Krupa, and Danny Kaye, Dick Chamberlain, Branislav Kaper, Eddie Cantor, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, George Hamilton, and Olivia de Havilland, who was our guest yesterday. And Olivia is in a new picture called Lady in a Cage. which also stars another great name of the movies, Miss Ann Sothern. One thing I must say, which really excites me no end, that Ann Sothern is going to be playing with you, Olivia de Havilland, because Ann Sothern, to me, has always meant fun and laughter and things like that. Now, in the picture, Lady in a Cage, you're a woman who's beset upon by some angry people and whatnot. Now, what part, and as I said before, Ann Sothern is such a funny girl. Lots of laughs, you know. What part does Ann Sothern play in the picture, Olivia?
A prostitute.
Swell. Swell. I'm so glad to hear this.
I get to reminiscing now and then about the good old days when men were men. 5 cents bought a good cigar.
I had to ask.
And Mary was a grand old name.
It sure was.
Well, whenever they get to reminiscing at Foremost Dairies,
yes,
somebody's sure to point out that as far as milk...
Now, ask the simplest questions in the show and get the strangest answers. For instance, a book was written by Academy Award-winning, Oscar-winning Olivia de Havilland. Olivia, you wrote a book, Every Frenchman Has One. Now, I know you're married to a Frenchman, but what is it that every Frenchman has? You know, I know it's an ability to talk many languages, which obviously your husband does. What is the book about there?
It's a series of, I suppose, essays. That sounds terribly, terribly literary, but I don't know how else you can describe what the form is. It's a series of them which describe my comic adventures as an American woman trying to adapt to life among the French. I had to learn the language. And
you didn't know French before?
No, I didn't. I took lessons. I had taken lessons because the language had always attracted me very much, but I didn't speak it. So one day, I can remember the first time I understood a French sentence when it was being spoken to me. It was the taxi cab driver. I had gone out one afternoon to do some shopping, household shopping. And I had expected, of course, everything in France to be less expensive than in the United States, and I had some very unpleasant surprises that afternoon. And I went in, and what I meant to say was that I had discovered that, and I was very angry about it, that I had discovered that French mattresses were very expensive, and I confused the word matelas, which means mattress, with another word, matelot, and this is what I said: that I had discovered that French sailors were very expensive.
Oh, dear. Habits that people have out here, and one of those that really bothers me no end is parking of cars. In restaurants alone, it's kind of a rough thing. When you can park your car right there and the doorman says, I'll take, that's bad enough, you know. And then later on you have to tip them, which just makes it even worse. But what bothers me is go to Beverly Hills or Bel Air to someone's private home and have somebody park the car there in a private home. I mean, I can park it on the street, but a guy's, come right up in front of the house here. Now, Andre Previn was on the show, and I asked Andre about this.
That I agree with you, but we live way up in the hills, and it's very tough to find any place to park.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to have those fellows, because there's, as a matter of fact, where we live, there are signs on both sides of the street that says, never park here. Mm-hmm. So where those guys take the cars, I have no idea.
Have you ever bothered asking where the guys are going to take the cars?
No, but they have a lot downtown now that's doing thriving business.
But I come out of a party. We came out of a party the other night in Beverly Hills there where I could park my car. And the guy said, I'll go get it. I'll go get it. I said, it's right there. I'll go get it. So my wife says, you're going to have to tip him. And I said, I won't. She says, you got to. So I gave him a quarter.
You got your car back, did you, for that?
Is that too little? You're supposed to tip more than a quarter, Andre?
I think you're supposed to give him 10% of the value of the car.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Terrible person. Andre Previn. This is not Andre at the organ, by the way. This is Jimmy Smith, and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf's the title of the album. Of course, the tune is Wives and Lovers. 18 minutes after 10. We've been talking with Phyllis Diller and Barbara Streisand and Gig Young in just a moment. I don't mind tipping if somebody does something for me, but, you know, I don't know whether a fellow parking a car that I could easily park right there at the curb, whether that's, you know, worthy of something out of the ordinary. That's my own, heck, all of us tip. It's one of the American habits. Speaking of Hollywood, though, and restaurants, we had Phyllis Diller, comedian Phyllis Diller on the show. And Phyllis, of course, is from St. Louis, has done a lot of work here on the coast, up in San Francisco, and nightclubs and here in town. And she goes to the fancy restaurants, of course, right, Phyllis?
I went to one of those fantastic places to eat, and already at home, back in St. Louis, where we live, I've already made shrimp remoulade. And people take one bite and run to the faucet. They lie down under the sink. And
What do you put in it?
oh, it's got horseradish. Of course, that's Jewish dristan. And it's got, you know that hot Chinese mustard?
Yeah.
Oh, half a cup of that. The shrimp is only an excuse for serving this hot stuff.
Yeah.
It opens your nose right away, but it closes one eye.
Motion picture star Gig Young was also in that day that Barbara was here, and we were discussing acting and singing, and I asked how Barbara got around to the singing part, because you started out as an actress, right?
Couldn't get work in the theater.
You started out as an actress then, huh? Well, why couldn't you get work, dear? Was it a lack of experience, or
Too tall.
Is it the too tall? She's got a beautiful hairdo.
Hasn't she, though?
It was that, lack of experience.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I'm not, an ingenue type. I mean, they couldn't just say, hey, you go up ingenue. They said, what parts could you play?
What did you usually say?
I said anything. You see, the thing is, I would try to tell them that I really can't, I can't convince them that I could do anything, but I could play any part. But they laughed at me. I used to wear tights because it was cold. They used to think I was a real beatnik. But I was never in the village or anything.
Never once.
Where are you from, Barbara? Are you from Brooklyn?
Originally, yeah.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, one day you decided, I'll show them, I'll sing.
Yeah, that's what I did, as a matter of fact.
Did you?
I lasted rounds, 2 days. I made a lot of enemies.
What do you mean you made a lot of
I
enemies?
mean, I'm supposed to go making rounds, actresses and actors, knock on people's
interviews.
doors, and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hated it, and I hated the people, and they were such idiots, so I decided I'll do it another way. Oh, I was going to say something. We are.
Yes, well, it would have been the end of my career right here, sure. But I know how you feel towards those people, because many times I thought, someday...
Hate them.
Hate them.
Yeah.
Someday I'll get even with them. And then someday, if you ever get anywhere, you look back and
You're
you
too
say...
tired to fight.
I don't want to get even with them. It's not that important. But how did you finally get to convince them you were a singer? Did you walk in and start singing?
I learned a couple of songs, and I entered a talent contest.
What was the talent contest, dear?
It's called a talent contest.
No, but it was in a theater, or was it...
It was in a little club.
Yeah. And who saw you there? Who discovered you there?
Nobody discovered me.
All right, if that's the way you feel about it, all right with you. No, but how... You didn't just...
Well, I mean, I just sang my songs, I remember I had gum in my mouth. I said, see, I had to take it out and find an ashtray for it. I mean, it was that kind of thing that I didn't really care about singing, So they all started laughing. I mean, they thought I was something else. I don't know. And I won it.
They laughed at you?
Well, I laughed when I put my gum on the microphone, yeah.
Excuse me, folks, while I park it. Do it at the Grove Wednesday night. The place will fall apart.
Starting when?
Let's face it, Barbara, because you are red hot right now. In fact, you're burning at the moment. Your dress is on
Get
fire.
the water, please.
I've been meaning to tell you.
Oh, by the way, I got a new apartment in New York, and you know whose apartment it was once?
Oh.
Lawrence Hart's.
Really?
Lawrence Hart, yeah.
Really? Did you find anything there that he might have left behind?
Well, he had a great, on the wallpaper, when you go up to the second floor, a crest painted on, a marvelous family crest, but the walls were all cracked, so I had to paint it over. But it really killed me to paint it.
What
That's
kind
a
of an
beautiful
apartment?
place. He had it.
Well,
He was
marvelous
quite
place.
rich for a new...
But I was going to say, you mentioned that the walls were cracked. That doesn't sound too high class.
It's a very old building.
It's a brownstone in New York?
No, one of these old buildings on the west side.
How long ago did he live there, by the way?
Well, he was the first tenant. See, he lived there until he died, and then these people that lived there before me lived there for 16 years. And they were cruddy, had horrible wallpaper of everything. Disgusting.
We won't mention their names.
Who were they, dear?
I once heard, but I'm not going to tell you.
Well, all right, if that's the way you want to be about it. You don't want to let us in on a little secret there. Barbara Streisand and Gig Young. 25 minutes after 10 on the KNX clock, and we're going to have Stephanie Powers in just a moment. fine young actress, currently appearing in The New Interns. And Stephanie and I are going to do a movie for you in just a moment with the Crane Little Theater Players. But, besides being a fine performer, it's got nothing to do with it. I just happened to mention it there. But Stephanie was first in the picture with Lee Remick, Experiment in Terror, music by Henry Mancini. And now with Stephanie's permission here with the Crane Little Theater Players, if we can just have a scene with the music in the background there, please.
The second side is...
Pardon? No, this is... Can you hear?
Yes.
Experiment in Terror. Lee Remick comes home in her car one night to a fashionable section of San Francisco. She pulls into her garage. And just as she's getting out of the car, she hears a footstep in the garage. And she says,
Toby, is that you?
and there's no answer. She says again,
Toby.
and then suddenly an arm comes around her neck. And this man says,
Howdy, folks. This is Art Baker, and I'd like to ask you a question. How much do you...
and naturally when we had Gene on the show, he's been here a couple of times, I wouldn't let him get away without asking him to engage in a drum battle between... I had the two drums here in the studio. And,
You got your bongos with you?
I tell you what, Gene, I've got my... it's my son's snare drum, Gene. You see, it's got a hole in it and everything. And,
That's kind of using now, by the way. They've gone back to that type. I see it's a real old one, but...
Well, I used this in the Civil War. This was one of those things there. I'm explaining all these things here, you know, before we...
Don't cop out. No excuses.
No,
sound good. Okay, now you beat it off so we get the right tempo.
All right, a 1 or 2. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. About like that, all right? That's Gene Krupa on drums. All right, my turn.
Oh, wise guy, huh?
Yeah, sounds like an old pop. All right, your turn. Gene Krupa. See, now you've got a whole band with you. I don't know whether he was happy about the drum battle or not, but Gene Krupa, one of our guests. We'll get back to more guests in just a couple of minutes. We'll be talking with Danny Kaye, Dick Chamberlain, Bronislav Caper, Eddie Cantor, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, George Hamilton, and that's only on this portion of the show over KNX Curious Radio in Los Angeles, 1070 on your AM dial, 93.1 on your FM dial.
It's truthful, it's honest, it's a really accurate appraisal of one's own character. Now, this is not going to deter me from listening to your program every day because I am not the least bit vindictive, Mr. Crane.
I know that.
I don't feel that because you have had a unwarranted and just hold it a minute. Well,
I'm sorry, Danny.
I've been watching television too much at night. I get tearful about almost everything.
What do you like to do on the weekend? Be with people, parties, sports events?
And a big nose.
Would you pay attention, please? We got somebody.
Besides,
What?
you're too hippie.
That's got nothing to do with it. We had a contest recently, and we're going to award a hi-fi set to a listener, and we had Dick Chamberlain present the hi-fi. He's been on the show as an interview a couple of times, and he was nice enough and gracious enough to come in, and we called Miss Marcy Morales. We were having trouble getting through to Marcy to tell her that she had won in our contest, and the operators were all confused and whatnot, and finally we made connection with San Bernardino. And, yes, operator?
Yes.
Hello, is this Marcy?
Yes, it is.
Oh, dear.
Oh, wait a minute. Marcy?
Marcy, M-A-R-C-Y, or M-R-C-I-E?
Well, is there a difference?
No, it'd still be me. I use both depending on how to spell it.
Marcy,
Is that awful?
No, I don't know. It's your name.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to have Bob. Then again, they want to call me Barbara, but I resisted. Now, wait a minute. We've got a gentleman here who would like to talk to you. Are you listening to your radio right now?
No, I'm not. I'm playing some records right now.
You're playing some records right now. Do you have a radio show of your own?
A radio what?
Do you have a radio show of your own, Marcy?
Radio show?
Yeah, watch what you say, by the way. You're on the air.
No, I don't have a radio show of my own.
You don't have. Do you know who this is?
No, I have no idea.
If I sing West of the Wall, I come to you. Who would that be?
West of the Wall.
If I sing I got a rose between my toes from walking barefoot, who would that be?
You know, I work all day long selling Ford automobiles here, and I'm never home.
Well, look, I've got a gentleman here who wants to tell you what you've just done. Here.
Yeah?
Hi, Marcy.
Yeah?
Hi, this is Dick Chamberlain.
Oh, yeah.
It seems you've won a contest.
What?
You won the Baby Crane contest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Marcy, you did enter the contest, didn't you?
You did enter.
I
did.
I mean, who wrote it for you?
Yeah?
How did you know about it if you never listened to the radio?
The boys are just putting it on right now. They heard you talking to me or something, and they switched the program on me here.
Oh.
They changed. Now I've been hearing two different voices.
Oh.
Yours and the radio or something.
Marcy, did your children enter for you?
Pardon?
This is Bob Crane. Have you ever heard?
I'm listening from all walls here.
Yeah, Marcy, do you ever listen to the show?
The wife probably does. She's out getting her hair fixed right now.
Your wife is out getting her hair fixed.
Yeah.
She entered your name on a card, Marcy.
She surely did, I guess.
Yeah, you just won a contest. You won a $500 AM/FM stereo combination.
Well, how do I get this thing?
Hey, Marcy, I'll tell you later on. Do you have any children?
Yes, I do.
How old are they?
13, 12, and 9.
Does your 13-year-old know Dick Chamberlain?
I bet he does. Even my little one does. Probably.
Oh, it's a he. Would you put...
Know Billy, do you know Dick Chamberlain? He does.
Would Billy like to say hello to Dick?
Billy, come here.
Here, yeah, Billy, get on the phone.
Here, Billy.
Hi.
Hi, Billy.
Hi.
Hi, this is Dick. How are you?
Okay.
Do you watch the Dr. Kildare show?
No.
We really hit the jackpot, Bob.
Oh, gosh. Well, look, Billy, we're going to get in touch with your dad and you and the family. Congratulations. You won a stereo combination, and thank you for entering the contest.
Thank you.
Oh, dear. And poor Dick Chamberlain sat here as well as poor me. Both of us were embarrassed by the whole thing, but Marcy later told us that his wife had sent in the card that won him the contest, and and his children do watch television, but they're in bed by 8:30 when Dr. Kildare comes on television. We had to find the reason why they weren't viewers of that. Many of the people we've had on the show later on become very good friends. We many times meet people for the first time at 9:15 as soon as they walk in here. Bronislav Kaper was a gentleman we met in the hall here at CBS, and I had heard he had composed such fine music as the theme to the music to Mutiny on the Bounty, the second picture, by the way, the soundy one, you know. And he also had written such songs as High Lily and Green Dolphin Street. And when he talks, Bronislav Kaper, you sound like Dmitri Tiomkin.
I know the trick of Dmitri Tiomkin. You see, Dmitri puts an extra R in every word, every syllable. He doesn't say, you understand what I mean? He says, you understand what I mean. It means 4 extra R's in it.
It's effective then.
Oh, I studied it.
Really? You studied in it?
Sure.
Sure.
You can't just fake it.
No.
Practice.
It takes practice.
Oh.
How did he make that Academy Award speech a couple of years ago where he thanked Beethoven? And
you mean the famous address?
Well, for those of you who don't remember it, it was a great speech. Dmitri Tiomkin had won an award for Teenage Confidential. So what was the...
Exactly.
Teenage Confidential.
I was very happy.
Really?
Oh, sure.
You're a nice guy.
I'm a darling.
You're a pussycat. I've heard many people say that. All right, now what else have you done?
Now, you see, all my songs, the popular songs, always sound like old songs. And this is my tragedy. I wrote my first song in this country was San Francisco. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ti-ta-ta. You know.
No, you're pulling my leg.
No,
is
I
that
don't.
yours?
Yes, sir.
Now, Marvin, are you impressed?
Yeah, quite. I thought it was a little older than Mr.
You see
Caper.
what I mean? Now, I'm impressed because I look young.
But, I wouldn't... You look like you've written symphonies and cantatas and things. You don't look like downtown San Francisco.
I'm a phony.
I mean, where the tape is, Bronislav Kaper, we've got 2 cards on. He's been all over the place. In fact, he tells his friends it's his show, and I do it in his absence. Give you an idea of the kind of guy Brent is. We'll be talking to Eddie Cantor in just a moment. Celebrating our 8th anniversary here on the station as we start our 9th year of interviews, which are on the 9:15 portion of the show, by the way. That's Eddie Cantor's music in the background, and of course, Eddie hasn't been feeling well of recent years, and we went out to his home about 3 or 4 months ago. And we were talking to him in his study and asking him about some of his friends, and I asked whether Jack Benny and George Burns and Jessel would be considered Eddie Cantor's best friends, and Eddie said...
Oh, yes, yes, definitely. These are people with whom I grew up. They're my contemporaries. We talk the same language.
How old are you, Eddie?
I will be 72 in January. Jack Benny's a little younger. George Burns is a little younger.
Why do you think Jessel travels so much?
Well, first of all, he's a very lonely man. Despite the fact that he's talking at dinners and to various organizations, he's a very, very lonesome man. After all, I first met Georgie Jessel in 1911. He was with an act of Gus Edwards' Song Review, and I was on the bill with a juggling act called Bedini and Arthur. I started as a juggler. Arthur taught me the things, and then I finally they got me to sing a song, and then I said to myself, I've got to get out on my own. I'm too good for just to be a juggler. So I've juggled words, I've juggled thoughts, and for a man who never got past the 8th grade, I learned a great deal from my contact with people. George Jessel was here last night, and he's on his way again. He's flown more. I call him the Jewish eagle. You just open the window and he flies right out.
What about Eddie Fisher?
Eddie Fisher has had an unfortunate affair, but I think it has matured him. He told me here in my home that as he left to go out on his own after being a babysitter, with Liz Taylor being the baby.
Yeah.
He is now doing the greatest act he's ever done. When I saw him hit the Coconut Grove, he got a standing ovation, which I thought was a matter of sympathy. But then the same thing happened at the Winter Garden in New York,
Yeah.
in Puerto Rico. He became a man overnight.
You got to meet Liz when they were married, huh?
Oh, yes.
Do you have any feelings there?
Well, she once said to me in Paris at the George V Hotel when she was married to Nicky Hilton, she openly said, I've got the body of a woman and the mind of a child. She was never a poor girl, could have any kind of toy she wanted, and now she's got them. When she says, I feel like a new man, that means she goes out and gets one.
Oh, Eddie, it's so nice seeing you again, and I do...
Bob, it's a pleasure. Let's do this again sometimes.
I would love to. It's been 5 years. Let's not wait another 5 years before we come back.
That's right.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Bob.
Eddie Cantor.
There's 4,
Yes.
and the youngest is 5 months,
yes.
so I don't have time to cater to a headache.
No.
Lie down, take
No.
an aspirin.
No.
So I tried this Bexedarin.
No, it's not Bexedarin. It's BC.
Works.
Yeah.
I'm still not married, but I feel fine.
Kind that won't let you down. Don't let headache ruin your day.
It's BC.
Relieve the needless suffering of everyday aches and rheumatic-like pains. Get the big extra in BC. BC powders or BC tablets.
That's right.
Buy it and try it.
That's right. And I wish you hadn't said that other word there. BC is the name of the product, of course, and it's exactly 10 minutes before 11 on the KNX clock, 10 before. I hate to harp on these things, but if you say the wrong word on the air, you know it's
Hi, Gewalt.
The barracuda will get you if you don't watch out.
Mr. Don Murray called One Man's Way, and Dr. Norman Vincent Peale was our guest talking about the picture and about his life and why he had turned to religion.
Well, I've got a very simple religious faith. I feel that God wanted me to be a minister. That deep impulse was in me, but I was fighting it. I was trying to run away from God, and it's pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
My father was a preacher, and I'd been brought up as a minister's son, and you know how they'd say, anybody else could do anything, but if a minister's son would do it, they'd say, oh, you're a preacher's son, and so forth. Well, this got under my skin and annoyed me. And this boy calls me a sissy. He says, you're a preacher's son, you're a sissy. And I hauled off and whacked him. And
with the organ.
And he retaliated in kind.
With the chimes.
With the chimes. And pretty soon, there was no music, and the hymns were screeching out, and so forth.
Oh, that's marvelous.
But you know, in this picture, Bob, there's a terrific love scene. You wouldn't, to take a look at me, you would never think I participated.
Well, no,
in the love.
I wasn't going to bring it up. It's a rather touchy subject at this point, anyway. But you don't find anything wrong with that outlook on it.
Oh no, no. This is I had a girl in the college, and it's in front of the sorority house that's being enacted out, the spring dance. No, the love scene is really very beautiful. In fact, it was so wonderful when I was sitting out here on the lot watching it being filmed that I would have sworn I was in Syracuse on this balmy spring night with the exotic music and so forth, and the romance stalking abroad, and the two leads were playing this touching and beautiful love scene. I was so enthralled that I involuntarily said to myself, was I ever this good? And then somebody spoke up and asked me, said, Norman, how did this love scene compare with the real thing back there in Syracuse? Before I could get out an answer, my wife, Ruth, spoke up and she said, oh, this one is 100% better. You see, these people are professionals.
Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. In just about 15 minutes, we'll be back with the final portion of our 8th anniversary show, and we'll get a chance to talk to actor George Hamilton at that time, who is going to tell us about Luella Parsons, Hedda Hopper, and Harrison Carroll, and how actors and actresses go about getting items about themselves in columns. It should be rather interesting. We also have Rudolph Frimmel and Keenan Wynn and Betty Davis and Maury Amsterdam and Otto Preminger and Steve Allen and Jane Meadows, Bill Dana, and Jonathan Winters, too. This is Bob Crane with the records, and we've talked with just a few of the many people we would have liked to have included on our anniversary show. Some of the interviews we've had during the past 8 years, just portions of them. We've had over 3,000 interviews, and since 10 minutes after 8 this morning, well, if you've heard any of it, you know what it's been like.
I must say, when Bob Crane puts his mind to something, we are certainly winding up with thrills, aren't we?
On this final segment of the show, we're going to be talking to Rudolph Frimmel, Keenan Wynn, Betty Davis, Otto Preminger, Jonathan Winters, Steve Allen, Jane Meadows Allen, and Bill Dana. And also, I meant to mention earlier this morning, our show is being recorded today for rebroadcast overseas by Armed Forces Radio.
Today's program has been recorded for rebroadcast overseas to the armed forces of our enemies.
No. George has a personal relationship with all of the columnists, and one day on the show I asked him whether it was true that he really called Hedda Hopper, for instance, when he had a romance item, or Luella Parsons when he had a career item.
There's certain things you tell to certain people.
Tell me something.
Certain columnists, I'm hanging myself, but I'm going on. There's certain columnists, you've got me in it, so I'm going. There's certain columnists like Harrison Carroll. Now, Harrison sort of digs...
everybody.
No, yes, but no, he does. You know, but Harrison is wonderful because he sort of likes plane wrecks and, you know, minor accidents and things like that. So you call him up and say, you know, I cut my finger today, Harrison, and it's like front page, you know. So, you know, he's an accident, you know. That's
he likes accidents.
Right.
No, actually, I know what you meant.
Yeah, all right. Well, it's going to end right here, back to radio.
Don't be afraid, George. I think it's very funny, and you're being very honest about it. We're going to be talking to Rudolph Frimmel in just a moment.
Okay, Lefty, let's have the loot.
Believe it or not, that music being played by Billy May in the band in the background, Huguette's Waltz, was written by our guest, and probably one of the most exciting personalities we have ever met, a gentleman who's written so many great songs of the past. And, I could go on and name the Italian Street Song, so many like that. Our guest is Rudolph Frimmel. Rudolph, do you mind when they jazz up your music like they're doing?
Well, I don't mind so much as long as the public likes it, and
But what I object when they steal the melody, you know, directly. Like you take, for instance, the Around the World number was very popular. Everybody, da 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 da. It's l'amour, toujours l'amour.
For goodness sakes, I didn't realize.
Fatherly Stone.
Around the world in 80 days. Around the world. Hey, you know, I never thought of that, Rudolph.
Well, yes, but Victor Young was a very good friend. He come to my house, and he said, you know, I love that l'amour toujours. So when he wrote the show Around the World, he thought, as a friendship, he'll show me how much he loves me. So he put it in and came back again. 4 times he stole it.
What else did he write to the...
Yes, that's right.
What do you mean?
That was the thanks for me that when he was having nosebleed in Palm Desert, I put him in my car and took him home and told him to put his feet on my shoulders and took him home.
Who put his feet on your shoulders when he got a nosebleed? Victor Young?
Yes, sir. That was absolute steal.
Isn't that a rather strange way to stop a nosebleed?
And that became very popular, naturally, because if people hear that melody for 25 years, l'amour, toujours l'amour, and then comes da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Naturally, it becomes popular. They say they hear it already. Yes, sir, that's a damn... But you take, for instance, they tell me that I didn't like My Fair Lady. I didn't like it. Why not? It's my music partly.
What did they steal?
Fair Lady is my music. Mr. Lowe knows it. He says at Palm Beach in Beachcomber, he put arms around me.
And got a nosebleed.
In a public place, and he was kissing me. And he says, you know, I love your music. I always study your music. I play your music. And I said, I know that you like my music. And that's why he was composing a number in Fair Lady, which is one of the best number, called I Could Dance All Night.
I could have danced all night. I could have danced.
You have that?
What did he steal that from? Or I mean, what did he borrow that from? I don't mean that we don't want to get sued on this show. What did he adopt that from?
I always liked that number. I thought, Jesus, it had a very good number. Then I found out that it was My Heart Is Yours, which I wrote for Maria Jurica.
My Heart Is Yours?
Da 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 da. My Heart Is Yours. Exactly, note from note. The lyrics could fit exactly to my music, and then on top of it, he came out with the finish of the song is that's Giannina Mia from Firefly again. So he took it twice, 2 songs in one song, and that's the best song in the Fair Lady. Then they say I don't like it. Why wouldn't I like it? It's my music. I love it. Before you start to play the music, I would like to tell you something. You ask me before I play. The only thing that the funniest thing of all is to me that I live in Los Angeles all my life. But I never played in Hollywood Bowl. They never asked me to play in Hollywood Bowl. I don't know. I talked to Mayor Yorty, who is a very good friend of mine, and he expressed himself in few words. He says, damn politics. If I can use that word. Yes, I never played in Hollywood Bowl, never asked me. I played all around as close as I can, San Diego, San Francisco, but Hollywood Bowl never asked me.
Is that what Mayor Yorty said?
I think I have to rent the Hollywood Bowl to give a concert up there.
I don't remember that quote. I mean, I remember most of his quotes, but that one I don't remember.
I like tea.
How old are you, Rudolph?
How old?
Yeah.
What do you want to bring that up?
Well, because I'm that kind of a guy.
I'm just having a second childhood.
Well, I know that. I've talked to a couple of friends, and they were telling me that the way you were, Rudolph. But actually, you're in your 80s.
I do always, people mention age doesn't mean anything. It all makes it how you feel.
But
how you feel, what you do, and...
But Rudolph, to me, the name Rudolph Frimmel has always been with us. You know?
Oh. Well, I tell you the truth, I'm very proud to be old man because it's nice to say that you are 100 years old if you feel like 70.
But you're not 100. Why are you saying that?
Well, I hope not yet, but not far from it.
Rudolph Frimmel is in his 80s, we can tell you that much. And believe it or not, and please believe it, he has just put out a new album, Rudolph Frimmel Bossa Nova. And he dances on it, and he cha-chas.
Well, I tell you, that's a very important question in my life, because I think that's the first thing I think about, how to take care of myself.
Yes.
I have yoga exercises, my own, and I keep on doing everything possible to keep in good shape. Then I go on a bicycle in Palm Desert. I have a bicycle, I go around, and I lost my pants the other day. Some dog went out, jumped on me, and just took my pants off. But just the same, it was wonderful.
Male or
and
female?
The most healthiest thing to clear your brain is to stand on your head, which is my favorite exercise.
You stand on your... Do you
I
use...
do that, stand on my head, yes.
And you're very happily married, too, which helps.
That's right.
You still love your wife?
Well, you have to exercise when you have your wife, you know.
Rudolph Frimmel, thank you so much for that.
It was a pleasure for me to be here and talk with you. Thanks very much.
Rudolph Frimmel, and I can easily say this, one of the most interesting characters we have ever met. We hope to have Rudolph come up from Palm Springs again one of these days for an interview. High temperature expected to be around 79. It is 74 here in Hollywood right now. Keenan Wynn was our guest a few weeks ago, and he told us a rather interesting story about his father, actor, comedian, star Ed Wynn, and his great business sense.
Real actors are notoriously poor businessmen. It just always happens. And my dad tells a story about himself, which is very interesting. When he was a big star in vaudeville, this is about 1910, a man came backstage when he played Detroit and said, I want to get 4 actors. Each give $5,000 to start my business, and we'll all be equal partners. My dad says, what is the business? He says, well, I'm going to build bodies for cars. And my father says, that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. Who would buy a car without a body? You know, so naturally, he didn't invest. Well, that was Fisher Body Works. Different actors who put in $5,000 sold out for $100 million in 1931. Then, at a later date, in the 20s, a man came to him and said, Mr. Wynn, I have a new sign that will look just as though you wrote it in your own handwriting. My dad said, no, the audience doesn't like that. They like all the different colored bulbs. That was neon.
Yeah. He had a chance for that, too.
Sure. No, what, you haven't heard it yet.
Oh.
Now, just prior to the crash, big star, playing Chicago, he always used to smoke cigars, very smartly dressed, carried a cane, used to wear a carnation, the whole thing. Man came back and said, Mr. Wynn, I noticed you smoke cigars a great deal. My dad says, yes, I do all the time. He said, well, I have a wrapping paper you can see through. My dad says, I wouldn't buy a cigar unless it was wrapped in gold foil. But first, that was cellophane, right?
He had a chance.
Now, wait a while.
Your father was a heck of a businessman.
Wait, here's the bit.
That's why he's still working.
That's right. Now, a fella came backstage and said, I noticed that you wear a carnation, Mr. Wynn. My dad says, oh, always. Sometimes 2 a day, keep them fresh. He said, well, I have something here that might interest you, Mr. Wynn, if you'd like to invest in it. I have a flask that fits behind your lapel that'll keep that fresh all day long. My father says, now there is something I'll invest in.
And you know how big they are today. Going into our 9th year of broadcasting here on KNX every morning from 6:05 to 10. And, of course, we do our interviews on the 9:15 portion of the show. And Maury Amsterdam has been our guest a couple of times. And Maury, fine comedian in his own right and fine actor now, too, on the Dick Van Dyke Show, who came out here to the coast to be on the show. Right, Maury?
Well, I'm originally in California. You know that, Bob. I'm from San Francisco, my home.
Yeah.
And I lived down here for a long time, though we've been in New York for 15 years. But now we're coming back to California, a sunny place for shady people. We've been out here living in an apartment since last June, but we just bought a home. Ask me where.
Where?
Funny you should ask.
Where?
In Beverly Hills. And our little girl goes to school there, and we're very happy. We're going to be dyed-in-the-wool, tired Californians from now on.
Are the Beverly Hills people as snooty as they say?
Oh, yes. They're writing a thing now called Over Beverly Hills to the Poorhouse.
Really?
And we have the only drive-in poorhouse in the country.
Really?
The things that they do out here, the houses are really magnificent, and the prices. I looked at a house the other day, $175,000, but you can fix it up. And the condition it was in, you should have seen this darn thing. The only reason it stayed together was the termites were holding hands.
Really?
Otherwise, it was just falling apart. You've seen sunken living rooms?
Yes.
This has a sunken ceiling. You have to lie down to walk in. I think this fellow had a lot of horizontal friends, the fellow we bought it from. But we're going to be very, very happy out here. They're redoing the streets and everything. All the roads now lead out of town. They want to get rid of the natives. Just get the tourists in. I can tell what the punchline's going to be, even if I never heard the joke before.
All right, tell me what the punchline is.
All right.
A herd of buffalo.
Who heard of buffalo?
The herd of buffalo going across the plain. Thousands of buffalo being led by one buffalo.
I hear it, yeah.
Yeah, and they're going across the plain, and suddenly the lead buffalo jams on his front feet, and all the other buffaloes fall all over. They're breaking the legs and whatnot. It is a mess.
Yeah.
And one of the injured buffalo leans over to the head buffalo and says, "What the heck did you stop for?"
And the head buffalo says, "I heard a discouraging word."
That's not funny.
2 old maids, and they had an apartment, and they had a parrot.
Yeah.
And one day something went wrong with the plumbing.
Yeah.
They called the plumber and says, "Come on over and fix the plumbing." And they forgot they asked him to come over, and they went out and left the parrot there alone. Plumber comes, knocks on the door. Parrot says, "Who is it? Who is it? Who is it?" Plumber says, "It's me. Come on, open the door. I want to fix the plumbing." "Who is it? Who is it? Who is it?" He says, "Open the door, will you? For heaven's sakes, I got no time to be still." "Who is it? Who is it?" He says, "Come on, stop with the jokes. Open the door. I got a lot of other places. Who is it? Who is it?" And this gets more excitable, and finally, in frustration, the plumber drops dead. And the 2 old maids come home, and they look down at the body, and one says to the other, "I wonder who it is." And the parrot says, "It's the plumber." That's wild. That's better than... Well, the parrot heard a discouraging word, actually, is what happened.
I was all set to pull my discouraging word all over again.
My wife happens to be Catholic, as you know, and I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
That means that when our son goes to a restricted golf course, he can play 9 holes. And do you know how snake charmers in the circus play Russian roulette?
No.
One of the cobras is deaf.
Maury, Amsterdam. We're going to be talking to Betty Davis, Otto Preminger, Steve Allen, Jane Meadows, Bill Dana, and Jonathan Ritters in just a moment. Reading the newspaper, looking at a picture of Betty and her lovely daughter being named Women of the Year in 1963. It's a beautiful picture, Betty.
Yes. You sure you're not looking at my daughter more than you're looking at me?
She's not too bad either.
A lot younger.
That's a crazy outfit you got on there. Take off that leopard skin.
Look, I know you think I should have a much older daughter graduating from college, but I do not.
Figured she'd be married by now with kids.
She's about 5'10". She makes me look like a shrimp.
Well, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Of course, that's what you meant. I know.
Really?
But it's an automatic deduction. It happens everywhere. Don't be at all embarrassed.
Oh, I'm not.
I couldn't possibly. I also have a son, 10, and I have another daughter who is only 11.
Oh, for goodness
It
sake.
surprises everyone.
Does this all happen in Maine?
No, it happened in California.
Because I was going to say, what did they put in the water up there? No, because you were living in Maine for how many years?
Well, we lived there for about 10 years with 3 children, but all after they were born. Yes, the children weren't conceived in Maine at all.
Now, why did you take off for Maine? I always couldn't figure...
So I always believed in bringing children up in Yankee Land, which is my home. And I've always felt that it's the greatest background one could have for anything one went into later, and I've been grateful for it myself. Many times with the profession I chose. You know, there are no red carpets there. One keeps one's head if one comes from there.
Well, one thing, Betty, that over the years, for various reasons, you have received sort of a reputation for being a very opinionated person. Now, I saw you with David Susskind on his show one night. You were discussing actors on the show, and you got a little bit edgy with him. I was wondering what
He does a very unfortunate thing with actors, which is why, you know, I really, in all good humor, brought it up. He always goes into how much money actors make and how very rich we are. And so when he had gone on about that for about 10 minutes, which he does practically every show actors are on, I merely said to him, "David, you just never have liked actors, have you?" No, I've never been a needler in public on the air. This is unprofessional and unnecessary.
No, you weren't a needler.
My reputation is, is that. For instance, I've had many people say when I said, go to hell to Jonathan Winters on the Parr Show, I said that with all good humor and fun. Because you don't go on displaying. Actually, I wouldn't go on a panel show with somebody I disliked. No, I have deep admiration of Mr. Susskind. I think he has more guts than most of the people floating around today, whether you like or do. For instance, the Khrushchev interview, whether you approved or disapproved, he had the sheer. Well, it was a wonderful thing for him to do, for us to hear Khrushchev in our own American way on that kind of a show.
Who is the fellow that does the great impersonation of you? Arthur?
Well, Arthur Blake is the first one. T.C. Jones, in recent years, the greatest impersonation of me is a girl named Barbara Heller. She's absolutely fabulous. But she does one that has to do with me as a person as well as anything outward. She doesn't do the... See, they eventually, impersonations become caricatures.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
They really do, because Arthur, in the beginning, was a much more legitimate impersonation of me than it is now. Now he's found three things to do. And really, as I said on the Parr show, for instance, I've never in my life said Peter on the screen. I've never worked with a character named Peter, ever, and I don't say Peter anyway, you know. But these are things that happen, and you're very glad they happen, because they sort of keep your career going. Without them, then you're nothing.
And you brought up one thing there, too, and we won't dwell on it, but when you told Jonathan Winters where he could go, I have never seen anything like that in prime time.
No, but this was fun. This was fun. You see, it's that kind of a show.
Oh, yeah.
And he was having great fun with me, and it was all in very good humor, truly.
You know that
people wish to misunderstand, you know.
Oh,
People wish to misunderstand.
It made great topic for discussion the next day, though, people going around...
Because I think he's truly one of the most amusing men and one of the most brilliant minds. He is the quickest thing until I came here this morning and watched him.
Oh, you're so nice.
The quickest, brightest, most amusing people I've ever met, really.
But you're beautiful. Really, I've been sitting here for 45 minutes. I'm in love with her now.
Hello, I'm your friendly Rambler salesman.
Show recently, and we asked him if he had... What he really thought about Betty Davis saying what she did on the Parr show.
You're full of messages, honey. Well, here's a 22. I missed you this time.
Oh, dear. Jonathan always comes up with... We had him as a guest one day, and we did a little scene where I was an actor trying to break into the movies, and Jonathan Winters was the producer. A producer of a big motion picture studio, and I'm the actor, and this is the way the scene begins. Listen.
Well, what is it, Bob? What kind of work, what do you want to do here? What are you doing here, by the way? Who's the agent? What's his name? What's his name, Bob? What's your agent's name?
I'll be honest with you, I never met...
How'd he get through the gate?
I never met him before.
You never met him before,
Not
huh?
my agent.
What, did he find you in the street or some discovery over a ice cream cone?
It's a big...
What, are you talking about the old days, Bob? What do you want to do, Bob?
It's a big company, sir.
Sure, it's a big company. It's a billion-dollar company, kid. We got him going there. You trying to tell me my business? Maybe you want to come behind the desk.
No, I don't
What do you want, sweetheart? What is it, baby?
Oh, now, see, you...
Want to be up there beside Marlena? Is that it?
You get the
Want
wrong...
to play Beau's Jest again for
No.
kids? We're putting Willard Foster in it. Crazy kid. He's 14 years old, but he memorizes in 2 seconds.
No, but my agent told me that I was very good.
Did he?
Yeah, he said...
What's good about you?
Well,
what have you done?
You really want to
What have you done? I really want to know. I'm not interested for 10 minutes.
Well, you talk so fast, I can't get...
Of course I talk fast. It's
Why?
a fast world. We got to wrap a series up in 26 minutes.
Oh.
Oh, sure. Burn a kid out and he's through by the time he's 30.
Well, the agent said to me, go in there, and you're a very big man. And
That's right, I am.
You could help me. And
Big physically and mentally.
Well,
I'm overweight and overtaxed, overtired, and I'm over the hill. It's that simple, kid. 75 pills a day, 16 syringes, and 5 bottles of juice. That's what keeps me going. 14 institutions in 5 years.
I've done little theater.
Little theater?
Yeah.
Stay with it. What you ought to do is stay in little theater the rest of your life. Get a little tiny place. Go off the beach. Get your friends to come in Levi's. You know, let their hair grow long. Play banjos the rest of your life.
No.
Oh, come on here. It'll drive you crazy, kid. It's a big thing.
He told me I was right for the picture. He read
They're making a housing project out of the whole lot. It's over, kid, for me and you and everybody. It's all going to pay TV. I've got a job for you in radio as a jockey. How'd you like that? Be happy. Go away to Yuma Beach and work out for a day.
No, you see, sir, I'm trying to get out of that. I don't want to get out of it because it pays well, but I want to get into the acting thing, and I'd been, the agent told me that I'm right for the part. He read the script, and I thought you were producing a picture. That's why I'm here. You start hollering at me like you've been doing for the last 10 minutes. It's not my fault.
I'm sorry, kid. I suddenly looked at your face and saw myself. You're it, Bob Crane.
You mean I got the part?
You're our next leading man. You'll be bigger than Peck, bigger than Spencer Tracy, anybody out here.
Well, what made you change?
I love you.
Many people, Otto Preminger is a taskmaster type director who really demands the best from his actors, and proof of the pudding is the pictures that have been turned out, including Exodus, of course. But when we had Otto on the show, we were so surprised at the great sense of humor. For instance, I asked him about the picture of the Cardinal and Romy Schneider, who was a German girl, and are European girls sexier than American girls?
I think this is nonsense. For everybody, I think Romy Schneider, whom you're referring to, is a beautiful girl and a wonderful actress and very provocative, but I can name you for any European pretty provocative girl, at least 2 or 3 American provocative.
Name them.
For instance, even in the Cardinal,
Carolyn.
Just as beautiful, just exciting. Not Burgess Meredith. Burgess Meredith knows a few pretty girls, and his wife is very beautiful.
Yes.
But Carol Linley, who plays in it, is, I think, just as talented and just as provocative, just as sexy. It is only that the grass always seems greener on the other side of the fence.
Isn't that the strangest? I've heard that before, yes.
Now, I will mention a few, but I hope the ones that I don't mention won't be put out and be mad. If they're mad, they should be mad at you and not at me. Now, for instance, among younger actresses, there is Anne Margaret. I think she has a great deal of sex appeal, just like any foreign girl. I would say that girls like, I'm speaking now about the younger girls. I don't even want to mention Jean Tierney, who made many pictures with me, and Joan Fontaine, who was beautiful, but
some of the young girls.
You take Jill Hayworth, who is also in the Cardinal. I think she's just as beautiful as Romy Schneider, and while she's only 18, I think eventually she will be a very beautiful and very sexy woman.
Have you seen Stephanie Powers?
Yes, I think she has a lot of sex appeal. I just don't subscribe to this whole nationalistic trend that only European women are attractive and only American men are attractive. This is a legend that you have spread over your show. It is just commercialism. You announce yourself, you advertise yourself because you're an American man. Yeah. I think there are some very attractive men who were born in Europe, although they are now Americans.
Yeah.
I don't want you to guess whom I mean. Or do you guess?
You.
Yes, for instance.
You
and
sexy,
there are
very,
very attractive American women, very, very sexy and beautiful. My wife is an American girl. I wouldn't exchange her for 20 European women.
I agree with you, Otto, but the only reason I read in somebody's column, he said, it just isn't like the old days when
you believe everything you read in these columns. It's insidious.
For instance, now, you worked with Lee Remick.
Yeah, but don't you think she's an attractive girl?
You can...
Well, she's an American girl. She was born and brought up in Boston.
You convinced me. You convinced me. I'm sorry I ever spread that other malicious gossip there.
But, I don't want to talk you out of Romy Schneider. You only missed the boat because she just left here. She made a picture here for 2.5 months. She was just across the street at Columbia.
I was over there,
too. You won't mention the name.
My wife wouldn't let me near the set.
Good neighbor Sam.
That's what she was making. Yeah.
And you could have met her at least.
My wife said
she would have come here on the show, and whatever you would have asked her, she would have said no comment.
Is that the way?
She's scared of the press.
Really?
And of interviews.
Well, I must say one thing now.
You always bring up your wife. This is you must divide your home life and your professional life. This is your professional life. You have to have pictures taken. You're an actor.
Would you tell my wife? Will you tell my wife, Otto?
I will even write to her. I give it to you in writing.
I haven't got the nerve to tell her that I'm an actor and I'm out with... she thinks I'm playing drums in a burlesque house. Really, it's terrible. Otto Preminger's name on a picture has come to mean a fine, fine movie, and I just hope that people will see The Cardinal and don't think that it's a religious picture.
No, the only danger is they think it's a baseball picture.
And baseball pictures don't do well. We know that. Otto Preminger, of course. This morning, so far, we've talked with just some of the people, over 3,000 guests we've had during the past 8 years as we start our 9th year of broadcasting here on KNX. And for those of you who may have just tuned in, we've talked with Julie Stein and Charlton Heston on this morning's show, Meredith Wilson, Rainey Wilson, Shelley Berman, Marilyn Monroe, Alexander King, Jane Mansfield, Arthur O'Connell, Georgie Jessel, Gypsy Rose Lee, Soupy Sales, Bob Hope, Dick Van Dyke, Jack Lemmon, Joe Lewis, Terry Thomas, I got a list a mile long here, Olivia de Havilland, Phyllis Diller, Andre Previn, Gig Young and Barbara Streisand, Stephanie Powers, Gene Krupa, Danny Kaye, Dick Chamberlain, Bronislav Caper, Eddie Cantor, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, and George Hamilton. And to end up the show, we went back into our files, and I wanted to end up, as we sit here drinking our orange posh on this Memorial Day in our 8th anniversary, drinking orange posh with 3 people, Steve Allen, Jane Meadows, and Bill Dana, and I wanted to end up with 2 of the greatest comedians in the business today. And unfortunately, we couldn't get them to come on. So we got you.
Oh, boy, you hear the screams all over town.
Many times we've said on the show, when we have a particularly dull interview, we kiss off our guest immediately. And Bill and Steve, it's been nice.
Certainly is nice. Good night, everybody.
When the roll call is called of great comics, Steve will be there to call off the roll.
Did I ever tell you about my watch?
No.
Oh, Mort Saul gave me this watch.
Did you hold it up?
It's a wonderful thing. Look, it's a calendar watch, it's a stopwatch, but the great thing about it is on the back, there's a little soft spot, and you press it, and it presses back.
Let me.
And it makes you feel wanted. We don't need anybody, do we, baby?
I've got an uncle who lives in Canada. Years ago, he saw a sign said drink Canada Dry, and he went up to try it.
Well, I certainly hope that.
Good evening, folks.
Hey, how would you like to have your teeth washed?
I want some more orange posh.
Over KNX, Curious Radio in Los Angeles, 1070 on your AM dial, 93.1 on
Listen,
your
I've
FM
heard
dial.
Curious Radio, but, I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Jane, could we just have you come over for 1 minute, because everything you've said so far has been off mic. May I just ask you one question, Jane, if you can lean over the top. Don't bother getting up, Bill, because we're going to say goodbye anyway in just a minute, but just wanted to find out.
Goodbye.
No, Jane, I want to find out, what are you doing lately? What is occupying your time?
Besides running my house and taking care of my busy husband and children.
Now, you still have a travel agency?
Oh, yes.
You mentioned something to me the other day at the telethon. A lot of things were mentioned at the telethon, but one of the things, a lot of people forget that Jane Meadows originally was a fine dramatic actress, and they think, oh, Jane Allen or Jane Meadows, whatever they're naming you as, oh, she's a good panelist.
Yeah.
Doesn't this bother you a little bit that sometimes people...
No, not at all. Not anymore, Bob. It did, I suppose, when I first went on I've Got a Secret, but having done so much acting on the stage and in the movies, I don't really care that much anymore. It's fun occasionally to do a good script and a good part, like The 11th Hour.
Yeah.
But when you're busy, you know, with kids and an important husband, that takes up most of your time.
Oh, who is that?
Steve Schwartz.
Bill, you know what? It doesn't bother Jane, but it sometimes bugs me when people think that Jane is only... Because she's really one of the most gifted actresses in our business.
Yeah, but that's...
I gave her a lot of gifts this
Mantelpiece is low?
No, she is.
But that sometimes happens. In fact, it always happens in this business. You do one thing well, and boy, that's it. They typecast you, you figure,
Especially in television. If you get known... in a way, it's a compliment. If you get known as yourself on a panel show, then you are that to them forever, I think.
People also forget that to get on a panel show, of a successful show, that is, you have to have previously distinguished yourself in some professional capacity. You have to be a funny publisher like Bennett Cerf or something.
Or a relative of Goodson and Taunton.
Everything is so inside on that show. I'll never forget a skit that Art Carney did, and I won't bore you with the whole thing, but one skit...
Good.
But one skit I loved, they did a takeoff on that panel, and I forget, it was, I think, Jane Powell that did Dorothy Kilgallen, and they were trying to guess who the mystery guest was with the mask over, and they used the lines, Dorothy Kilgallen saying, wait a minute, did you come over to the theater with me tonight? Are you my house guest this week? You know. And this, everything on that show is so inside, like...
You know, one night I was on What's My Line on the panel, and I took off my mask, and I still didn't know who the mystery guest was. I'm sick to this day, I don't know who the heck she was. It was Arlene Prettiness or something.
Oh, dear. Steve Allen, Jane Meadows Allen, and Bill Dana. That about wraps up our 8th anniversary show as we begin our 9th year here on KNX from 6:05 to 5 of 10, Monday through Friday. Starting next week, of course, we won't be on Saturdays, which is good news to my wife and family. We want to thank all the guests who have come in over the past 8 years, and for those that will be coming in, we have a lot of fun with them. Wayne Newton and Jackie Vernon, comic Jackie Vernon, will be our guest this coming Monday morning at 9:15. One comedian we did not include, mainly because we did interviews with this gentleman back before we were taping them, was Jerry Lewis. And we hope to have Jerry one of these days. But Jerry does do one announcement for us, which I think is marvelous, this being election time.
Thank you, Bob Crane. Vote yes on Proposition No.
We want to thank our fine engineer for today, too, Ted Rhodes, and we want to thank Jim Lowe and Jack Chapman for being such great guys and helping us with the tapes and whatnot. This is Bob Crane. Have a wonderful weekend and a nice Memorial Day, and we'll see you again on Monday morning. Until then, goodbye.